I think what's really happened is the segment of the population that we touch with technology now has broadened so much more that we need to be aware of the consequences of that technology. So many people depend day to day on technology provided from Facebook or Google or Twitter or Amazon, and it changes their lives. And the leaders need to be aware of that long reach they have and that dramatic impact.
So how will that change their behavior? I mean, obviously there is a growing awareness from many events in recent days, weeks, months. How did the leadership need to respond to those events?
I think the leadership needs to not just focus on the technology, but focus on the impact of that technology. And certainly we're going to see this increase because the rise of artificial intelligence is going to increase the impact even more of these technology companies. So we have to be acutely aware of how that technology is being used, both for good and for bad, and try to see what we can do to ensure that our technology gets used for good.
So when we saw recently, for instance, senators questioning tech leaders from Facebook and Twitter, Google chose not to be there. Was that a missed opportunity for the leadership?
I don't know that it was a missed opportunity. There was some inability to synchronize on certain things, who was available at the company and other commitments they had. I think certainly we need to do a better job of communicating what the core values of the company are and our commitment to the customers and the users of Google.
One of the questions it raises, of course, and again, a long view of this is so important, is these platforms grew up as kind of these agnostic tools. You weren't out there trying to do anything with them, you folks who are putting them out there. Now they are being used in ways that you didn't intend. Where does the responsibility lie for the companies and the folks running them?
Well, it's a challenge, of course, because you have to balance First Amendment rights and the ability. The Internet is magical. It allows anybody to publish. But with that comes a loss of authority that we have with traditional news sources, which vet their information and try to adhere to the facts and separate out opinion from news. So we have to think about how the services we offer are going to align with that. News is different than search. Search, you should be able to get to anything on the Internet somebody publishes. News, you should be directed primarily to authoritative sources, which are considered reliable.
One of the things that's becoming increasingly clear is that data and the control of data is going to be one of the most important assets of this century. Do you think we're prepared for that? By we, I mean folks inside a company like Google, which owns and manages so much of it, but also regulators and ordinary citizens. Do we know what we're headed for?
I think we have a lot of challenges around data. One that's immediately become crystal clear in the last few years is security. If a company has lots of personal data about me, what are they doing to secure that data and ensuring that a hacker or somebody who's going to misuse it can't get to it? Building on that are issues of privacy. Is it crystal clear between the users and the company how that data can be used or how it can be resold, for example? And of course, this has always been somewhat of a mystery to the typical consumer. Certainly with credit card companies, it's been a mystery over the years. But I think it's increasing as the amount of data, as you said, grows and grows. So we have to have a clear agreement between users and the company about how that data can be used.
Do you think it's clear inside the tech companies about what is sort of the direction? I know often the innovations are running so fast. Do they run ahead of some of these issues that can be quite thorny when they hit the public?
Well, I think that's a great question because in some sense there was a mindset inside much of the tech companies, run fast, break things, and fix them, right? That doesn't work when you're talking about breaking something like somebody's privacy or their data security. So we need to rethink that and think the implications, which will probably mean slowing some things down a little bit to make sure we really understand what the user impact is.
Meanwhile, these companies get ever bigger. $1 trillion would have been hard to imagine a few years ago. Regulators are starting to take notice. The EU taking on Amazon, now appearing to square up on Google as well. Is that fair? Is it fair to look at tech companies and say you're getting too big?
Well, I think in the end, the question isn't how big the company is, but whether or not it continues to serve its users and customers effectively, or whether, obviously, it could also use its size to eliminate opportunities for customers and users. And that's where the regulatory agencies have to balance many things. What's in the best interest of the consumer and the user, and how does that fit in with how big the company is and what they're doing?